Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. In the first year of the crossover, we looked at the big 1996 clash between DC and Marvel that resulted in the Amalgam Universe. We didn't get to all the combination comics we got there, because I didn't own some of them, and I still don't. Well, thank goodness for online scans, because I'm taking issue with even more Amalgam comics, starting with Bruce Wayne, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Let's see if these mashups make us want to join together, or want to split.
The cover looks like your standard spy movie poster, main character with a weapon drawn, while the background features an obvious villain, a woman lying down seductively, and some planes flying from the helicarrier. Action, espionage, thrills!
Bets! References! Because this is Bruce Wayne, and why else would you buy the book?
The story is written by Chuck Dixon, with art by Cary Nord, Mark Pennington, and Steve Buccellato. And you can tell they really had fun with the credits bubble here. Anyway, in a crumbling lair, Green Skull is realizing someone has found him, as the base is being bombarded. Despite the unfortunate-looking scene, Skull looks like he's celebrating. Either that, or he's stretching after just waking up.
Okay, is everyone ready to murder innocents and take over the world? No genocide until I've had my coffee!
After being asked just who's after him, and I'm willing to bet it's that minion's first day, rather than just saying the name outright, Greenie monologues on the arch-nemesis hounding him from the helicarrier, and I guess he identifies our main character using the title logo.
Using a graphic design as speech isn't easy, but it can be done with the right syntax and a metatextual hot glue gun.
His bungling is no longer tolerated by the woman from the cover, Selena Luthor, who happens to be Skull's daughter. Backed up by a few familiar-looking goons, she points out that her pappy's attempts at killing Colonel Wayne only brought his retaliation to Hydra's doorstep, so gladly commits patricide for the sake of Hydra, throttling him and breaking his neck with her whip. Promising that the S.H.I.E.L.D. director will be next, she takes over as leader, with all supporting her crying their chant. We have a small panel here, a transmission from a very unfused-looking Nick Fury. "Bruce, what in ding-busted Sam Hill is going on here? They tell me you got a full-scale assault planned." "It's not planned. It's in progress, Nick."
Don't you just hate it when the comic you're reviewing beats you to your own snarky comment?
Accompanied by someone who looks like he's just slouching in a chair. He just doesn't want to do anything despite all the excitement. Who am I to judge? I feel that way most of the time anyway. Nick warns that Skull is liable to take the world down with him if he feels cornered.
Nick, did you not notice that he's already dead? You were right there on the last page. It was even on the side of your good eye. You wouldn't have had to have turned your head that much to look.
Bruce assures that he's accounted for his foe's capabilities, as two costumed agents are seen in the doorway, saying it's time to get going. He ends the call, and Nick is not happy whatsoever. He tells Joe, a man in shadow that has brought the gift of beer, that Bruce takes everything so personal. Well, assassination attempts tend to do that. But Fury says it's more because Wayne's parents, who were also spies, were killed by Skull's agents, and that drove the young man to join S.H.I.E.L.D. right after law school and was soon Fury's right hand, seeming destined from the start to run the agency. However, he's apparently made it his own army for vengeance against Green Skull. But at what price? A man can only kill for so long before his soul just up and dies.
Play standard Zack Snyder and or Batman v Superman joke here.
Joe suggests they suit up and watch Bruce's back, and Nick agrees. Meanwhile, the guy in the chair, Tony Stark, is repeating the operations of Wayne's rocket pack, though is cut off by the arrogant young colonel. Wayne is reminded that Tony built the rocket pack just like he built his support chair that he's stuck in, and the colonel's experience with it has largely been in simulation.
Is that such a bad thing? I played enough Ratchet and Clank to know that if anyone ever makes real-life buzzsaw guns or weapons that turn your enemies into loyal attack ducks made of fire, I would be unstoppable. Someone please build me Ratchet and Clank weapons.
Can't really tell who, if anyone, Tony's supposed to be merged with in this universe, but he mentions his lab's working on something that might make him mobile again, just as Bruce has taken off. He meets up with his allies, who look like combos of Moon Knight with Nightwing and Mockingbird with Barbara Gordon, the latter of whom, of course, has to kiss Bruce for luck before they head out to intercept some Hydra aircraft, with alternate Grayson looking on with a really goofy smile.
Sheesh, that fanship even made it into the Amalgam universe. Although, alternate realities like Elseworlds or What Ifs are often where writers indulge in such relationships, either at their own discretion or because maybe they think the fans will get a kick out of it. So it's not too surprising. But I still find the Bruce-Barbara pairing weird.
Selina, who prefers to be called Hydra Supreme now, lest she claw your face, is fighting to get even one ship through the shield defenses, ordering that pilots will gladly give their lives for her victory. One nameless goon reports that prior to his death, Green Skull somehow activated the Planet Smasher program, which operates the Terra Cannon. This is cause for concern, but we're not told why just yet. On a splash page, S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are exploding out. Literally, there's a detonation effect from where they're flying from. Did they pop out of a bundle of TNT sticks or something? Anyway, Moonwing is ordered to take care of the aircraft guns, while Huntress sticks by Bruce to fight off any skipjets that might attempt suicide runs on the helicarrier.
Also, in case they want to make out some more. I mean, I've seen Barbara. I get it, but it's not exactly professional.
I do find something of a discrepancy, though. This Huntress is different from the one we saw in Legends of the Darkclaw. Okay, they're both blonde, though this one could pass for strawberry blonde if you ask me, but her name is Barbara with a clear Batgirl-inspired suit, whereas the other one was Carol Danvers, in a more generic-looking catsuit with Helena Bertinelli's color scheme, and worked for a no-name directorate until going rogue. Guess there was some lacking communication between books. Or they thought no one would care, much less be pedantic enough to notice.
Well, they thought wrong. Game over, Marvel and DC. By rights, you must swear fealty and relinquish ownership of your companies to me for pointing out a minor continuity hiccup in one of your alternate universe stories. I'll be waiting.
An enemy craft makes it through their defenses, and Wayne goes to stop it, only for it to explode and apparently knock him out. Moonwing's a bit busy, not just with standard goons, but Deathlock. Honestly, I thought all that black covering him was supposed to be him in shadow, but it's his suit. He targets Wing specifically, mentioning how he was tossed aside by Wayne, and starts choking him as part of their family reunion. From there we go to Selina showing Baron Zero, Zemo plus Mr. Freeze, the Terra Cannon, a giant gun with the barrel fixed inside a hole drilled miles into the earth. Another of Green Skull's older suicidal schemes, it'll build a nuclear charge until it goes critical, firing into the continental shelf and breaking off the entire east coast into the ocean. And its firing sequence can't be deactivated. Are you having the last laugh in hell, Father?
No, they haven't let me in yet. I'm still in line behind a bunch of politicians and price-hiking pharmaceutical executives. Get back to me in about, a month.
A bit roughed up after his sudden case of gravity, and unable to contact the helicarrier, Wayne is confronted by Nuke, a combination of Marvel's Nuke, obviously, and DC's Bane, often considered a drug addict because of his use of venom. He intends to do away with the Colonel after bulking up, with apparently really shiny muscles. Now you know why I wear sunglasses all the time. Deathlock is prepared to strangle Grayson, leaving him broken and gasping as he claims he was himself, only to be shot down by a plane piloted by Nick Fury and Joe, rather Sergeant Rock. Huntress arrives, and it's revealed that Deathlock was in fact Jason Todd, who took up the mantle of Moonwing while Grayson was at school. He was believed killed in a scheme by the villain Jackal, in an attempt to bump off Colonel Wayne and Darkclaw, as told in the non-existent graphic novel, Darkclaw, the Murder Gag.
Bear in mind, this was 1996, years before the Hush storyline would tease the idea of Jason's return, let alone the formal revival under Judd Winnick in Under the Red Hood. So it kind of makes me wonder if this had maybe even a small subconscious influence on bringing Todd back full-time.
For a character that's supposed to be younger than Grayson, Todd actually looks older with all that cross-hatching. Anyway, Moonwing is unsure if he's going to let Bruce know one of his agents had joined up with Hydra. Good thing this is a short-lived continuity, because you know that would not end well. Meanwhile, Nuke is knocking Wayne around, mocking the Green Skull's refusal to fight the Colonel face-to-face, and instead formulating complicated plots to kill him, all because of the death of his incompetent parents.
Hell no, he done went too far. Now Lee, shoot his ass right now, Lee. Shoot his ass!
Of course, you insult someone's family, that's when they fight back in earnest. Wayne accuses him of being a coward, needing his steroids to fight, and while getting in a few hits, increases the dosage of venom on Nuke's gauntlet. It taxes his heart to the point he falls over, very much dead, more than likely, as Moonwing and Huntress arrive. And yeesh, I thought Todd looked old. Now Grayson's aged a span of 30 years in the course of a page or two. They were afraid Wayne was dead, and the Colonel thinks that after this mission, he needs to do some reevaluation of his life, and possibly a life with Barbara.
Question for Chuck Dixon. How much did Bruce Timm pay you to write that in? Or is it more of a kidnapped pet situation?
There's a rumbling from the Hydra base, and it's believed to be the Planet Smasher weapon that they'd apparently heard rumors about. Inside, the effects of the Terra Cannon are unknown. It could cause a local earthquake or rip the planet apart. Some goons run off, and even though there's no escape from the devastation, Selina shoots them because she's super committed to the whole serve Hydra or die mantra. And I guess she gets a kick out of it.
Who wouldn't?
Wayne and his agents bust into the control center and discover Selina is now in charge, leading to a big fight that I'm sure is helping the whole out-of-control doomsday weapon problem. Wayne literally throws the new Hydra Supreme around with her whip, smashing her into the computer panels and demanding to know how to stop the weapon. She can't, laughing at the irony of her dad finally beating Wayne, but not being alive to see it. Rock and Fury are flying overhead as the base explodes, leaving no hope for survivors. The comic ends as a man watches the chaos from somewhere, smoking a cigarette and declaring his enemies removed from the board, in a game that belongs to the Green Skull.
I thought this comic was pretty enjoyable, showing us a Bruce Wayne that's willing to kill in a way better and more understandable than some other stories we could mention.
The exposition, while brief, is effective so that you can feel something for these merged characters. It can sometimes feel clunky, but it's not too distracting. Character relationships, romantic ones aside, feel very well represented in their interactions, a proper amount of brevity to get the story going, but making you invested in what's going on and who's involved. I was okay with the art for the most part, maybe lacking in detail here and there, and maybe too much detail that aged characters up unintentionally. Though, what bugs me the most is the crest worn by Wayne's agents. The two Huntresses thing I can overlook. Calling it Bruce Wayne, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., when he's clearly in charge, is odd, but not technically inaccurate. But this? It's clearly the top half of the bat symbol, a very unique emblem, with two vertical lines beneath it. It doesn't really make any sense. What is it supposed to represent? What does it exemplify, other than a reference to a character that, in this reality, doesn't actually exist? I can understand that they can't explain everything in a single 20-odd page one-shot, but it looks just so awkward, I wonder how it makes sense in universe. Oh, and maybe don't tell Zack Snyder that snapping a character's neck might not be effective. I don't know if he can handle that kind of information.
Out of all the character combinations we saw in this story, it looks like Fury and Sergeant Rock stayed themselves. Maybe their classic rugged demeanor kept them from combining from any other characters, and they just settled on being buddies. Anyway, next up we look at Bullets and Bracelets. Is that a comic title, or have jewelry stores just started going for the niche, glamorous gun owner market?
The cover features the two main characters, whom we'll get to know shortly, being attacked with arrows. One's deflecting them with her bracelets, and the other is firing at their attackers. Castle and Diana, together again.
And those Boy Scouts in that archery tournament won't know what hit them.
Written by John Ostrander with art by Gary Frank, Cam Smite, and John Kalish, we get a banner explaining our characters, how Princess Diana is an Amazon that left Paradise Island to investigate man's world. So does Themyscira have a lot of use for private investigators? And Trevor Castle is ex-Special Forces, who lost his family and became the Punisher to war against the Mafia. Stan Schwartz presents Diana Prince and the Punisher in Final Thrust.
Phrasing.
Narration heavily implies that this is a reunion for the pair and will be filled in as the story progresses.
Get down, princess. These hand goons mean business. So do I. And Castle, the day I can't handle mooks like them, or like you, is the day I trade these adamantium bracelets for cooking pans.
I recommend those non-stick copperware pans. They're easy to clean, and I've made some incredible frittatas with mine. They really are effective when a hitman barges in, too. They crack a mafioso's head like nothing else, I swear.
On a 2-page spread, Trevor charges forward, guns blazing, and Diana starts shooting arrows of her own. Narration indicates they'd been on separate but equally arduous quests, leading them into the Hand stronghold. After killing a bunch of the ninjas, a few survivors retreat, leaving no one to question. Castle doesn't much care to talk anyway, and thinks that because of the history between himself and his cohort, it's not going to help them find the kid.
I thought you had taken to using dummy bullets.
I did, but the dummies kept getting up.
And that's how I got a lifetime ban from all future Crash Test Dummies concerts. Also Canada.
As the two search the fortress, we get flashbacks to their pasts. Trevor's is more or less the Punisher's basic origins, fighting in Nam, family getting killed in the crossfire between warring mobs, you know the drill. Diana willingly left Paradise Island and her adopted sister Ororo to explore a man's world, helped the king of Wakanda, which earned her special bracelets, and would later make her mark as Diana Prince, freelance.
I thought that seemed weird at first, but one of the definitions of freelance, according to dictionary.com, is someone who takes up a cause or succession of causes without allegiance or personal attachment. It's a little obscure, but could work pretty well for a crime-fighting name.
One night she found him dying of his wounds, saved him, and they fell in love. They got married, had a kid, but their differences became irreconcilable, leading to their separation. And just to pile on the misery, their baby was kidnapped by some unseen malefactor. Knowingly walking into a trap, they start couple bickering, like who should have had custody, what might have prevented their son's kidnapping, and that Diana was just never the stay-at-home type. As they reach a dead end, Castle says he'd rather die saving his kid, but his ex points out that's always been his problem. Too ready to die, but not to live. They get boxed in by a surprise wall behind them and are shown a projection of a man called Monarch.
The Monarch!
He admits to being the one behind this current scenario, but he's not the one truly behind everything.
The Monarch has his hands in many sinister soups.
He unmasks to reveal Jim Rhodes, and then gives the ominous spiel about no longer who he is and all that. Diana pleads that they were once friends, and for a time closer than friends, and for the sake of their past feelings wants to be taken to her child. Monarch gives the okay, opening a boom tube beneath them, but hints that he'd have had to do it anyway, and what lies ahead could be fatal for them.
She's a super-powered mother whose child has been abducted. My money's on future fatalities being caused by her.
They land on Apocalypse, where I guess gravity isn't as crucial since Diana's arrows aren't spilling out of that quiver. The last they'd seen of the planet was during the Secret Crisis, a battle that many fought to win, but came at a heavy cost. Believing their son Ryan to be in Granny Harkness's orphanage, Diana scouts ahead while Trevor goes someplace he thinks he can find some extra firepower. An undisclosed amount of time later, an anxious Diana is waiting outside the orphanage when she's confronted by Big Titania. Her only love, Scott-Free, died in the aforementioned crisis that must remain secret for some reason, so that's why she's no longer friends with the princess, and why she was handpicked by Granny to run interference today.
First Rhodey and now this? If they encounter one more old friend turned evil, maybe it isn't a dark influence or brainwashing. Maybe Diana plus Elektra here is just a bad friend.
While sympathetic for Titania's pain, her child's safety takes precedence, so Diana clobbers her foe to her knees in one punch. But that's when Mad Harriet dives in for a sneak attack, apparently rendering Diana unconscious in one hit. Backed up by Bernadette, Stampa, and Lashina, their spiky leader orders them to take their prisoner to Granny, though Titania admits internally her heart was not in the battle.
Neither were my lungs or my kidneys. My small intestines were just phoning it in, and the less said about my pancreas, the better.
Meanwhile, Trevor infiltrates a tomb, indulging in some dark but still pretty funny humor as he takes out the guards, 2 parademons.
Or in this case, parademons.
As he walks into the structure, his inner monologue is directed toward the guy whose grave he's robbing, a kindred spirit that cherished the few friends he had and died a glorious, envious death. So he's raiding the tomb of a Klingon? Fortunately for Steve, his unnamed pal was buried in full regalia. Elsewhere, former Mrs. the Punisher is brought before Thanocide, who wants the location of the Infinity Links.
In this universe, the Infinity Gauntlet is actually powered by sausages. Just as powerful as the gems, but they're really bad for your arteries. There are turkey Infinity Links, but they're only a little healthier.
Believing that order does not occur naturally, and that he is the only one capable of imposing it on all of chaotic existence, Thanos demands to know where the links are to be found. Diana says they were destroyed for being too powerful, but he doesn't believe her, threatening baby Ryan's life if he's not told the truth. He then senses something blasting through a wall before it blasts through the wall. Only the Astro Force could perform such a feat, and so it does, as the Punisher rides in wearing Orion's gear. Briefly believing that Mistress Death had returned his son is distraction enough for the space tyrant that Trev frees Diana so they can each have their own sparring partner. And from out of nowhere, Titania remembers who her real friends are and attacks Bernadette. Though it doesn't look like she was going to be doing anything, but hey, go Titania or something. Diana's opponent, Kanto, says that as attractive as she is, Thanoside is his boss. But his heart stays his hand, so he withdraws his sword. Then Granny takes center stage, holding Ryan up over her head and forcing Mama Amazon to choose between her life and her kids. Thanoside's had enough, and uses his Omega Beams on the child.
Dude, I know you're supposed to be evil manifested and all that, but still, little baby. I'm sad now.
An infuriated Papa Punisher figures he has just enough remaining Astro Force to kill Kanto in retaliation, but Diana stops him. Having seen through the purple villain's deception, she explains his Omega Beams aren't merely destructive, but they bend space and time as well. Ryan was sent into the past and raised to become the very swordsman Trevor is trying to kill. It would have been revenge for the death of Orion, the tyrant planning to have Trevor kill or be killed by his own son. But Diana looked into the swordsman's eyes and knew the truth, and deep down, so did Kanto.
Yeah, he kinda kept talking about how hot you looked, calling you a comely wench. I'm no Shakespearean scholar myself, but that sounds like the start of some pretty unsettling Oedipal stuff right there.
The big bad himself neither confirms nor denies, instead using his beams to send Diana, Castle, Titania, and Kanto away. His former minions rematerialize on the Bifrost Bridge of New Asgard, where they meet the All-High Father Odin.
Clearly the most modest of all new Asgardians, and especially more modest than anyone in old Asgard. They haven't seen the kind of modesty he has.
According to old One Eye, Thanos left them where they belong because despite his evil machinations, he retained some honor, which may yet redeem him. Kanto pledges his sword to the old sage, then asks what became of his parents. They were sent to where they belong, on Earth, in the alley where they first met. If nothing else, love won out over Thanoside, as Castle was a better man than he'd given himself credit to be. The comic ends with the two making out, reaffirming their love, and Diana vowing that nothing will ever separate them again.
So remember, if you're having trouble in your relationship, go on a perilous journey, kill a bunch of nameless ninjas, but stop before killing your own adult time-displaced child, and then your love will be stronger than ever. And it's probably cheaper than marriage counseling.
I thought this comic was fine. I wasn't intently invested in the characters, but nor was I bored. I found the main hero's interactions understandable, but them getting back together at the end felt kind of flimsy and too much like a feel-good movie of the week. They broke up because of inherent differences between them that they didn't sort out, and a lot of it seemed to stem from Trevor's death wish. I'm okay with them getting back together, but it just didn't seem well-founded. Yeah, Castle refused to kill Kanto, but only after Diana revealed the complicated plot. How does not wanting to kill your child change him? And I'm wondering if maybe Diana just always had a torch for him, because even though she seemed resentful, she had his logo all over her clothes despite being separated. Why stay on brand unless you still got feelings for him? Titania's turn made even less sense, and it wouldn't have flown even if this comic were in an ongoing universe, not without increasing hints she'd struggled with allegiances. Despite not being heavily featured, I really dug Thanos' who's probably the most apropos fusion of two characters ever. The presence of Darkseid, pathos that I bet came from Thanos, and an interesting merging of their personal quest for dominance. It goes without saying that I wouldn't mind seeing more of this character.
And since we've got several more comics to look at in this universe, it's at least a possibility. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.